Good morning, and welcome back to the Morning Endurance Call. I'm Keith Erwood, and this is a free daily, 15-minute or less leadership ritual for business owners, executives, and preparedness professionals who want to build stronger businesses, think more clearly under pressure, and lead with more clarity in uncertain times. Each weekday morning, we spend a few minutes talking about what it really takes to build stronger businesses, stronger leadership, and stronger preparedness in a world where disruption is part of reality. Today's topic is this: financial impact analysis. Why leaders should care. This matters because many organizations understand that disruption is a problem, but far fewer understand it in real business terms. They know an outage would be frustrating. They know a process failure would be inconvenient. They know that downtime would create stress, and they know a disruption would be bad. But bad is not specific enough for leadership, because leadership decisions become stronger when consequences become clearer. And that is why and where financial impact analysis matters. Financial impact analysis helps leaders translate disruption into business reality. It helps answer questions like, what does this outage really cost us? What is the financial effect of the delay? What happens if this function is unavailable? What are the downstream consequences of disruption? What are we really risking if recovery takes longer than expected? Those are leadership questions. And they matter because when consequences stay vague, preparedness often stays underdeveloped. If leaders do not understand the financial effect of a disruption, they are more likely to underestimate risk, delay action, underinvest in preparedness, accept weak recovery assumptions, and tolerate fragility more than they realize. That is why financial impact analysis is so important. It helps turn disruption from an abstract concern into decision-relevant business issue. And that changes the conversation, because once leaders can see financial consequences more clearly, they can ask better questions. For instance, they can ask, what is 1 hour of downtime worth? What happens if billing is delayed? What if production stops? What if customers cannot be served? What if payroll is interrupted? What if a critical system outage creates days of rework after the event itself is over? What if the direct loss is only part of the real damage? That is where financial impact analysis becomes powerful. It does not just put numbers on paper, it sharpens leadership judgment. Now, I want to make an important point here. Financial impact analysis is not about trying to pretend every number will be perfect. It is not about creating false precision. It is about improving understanding. It is about helping leaders see that disruption has real financial meaning and that those consequences are often broader than people first assume. That matters because many businesses underestimate disruption in one of two ways. The first is they focus too narrowly on direct loss. They think about only immediate lost revenue or immediate productivity decline. Those things matter, but they are often just a part of the picture. The second is they fail to account for the ripple effects. A disruption may create manual work, overtime, customer dissatisfaction, service level issues, backlog, reputational strain, delayed collections, vendor complications, missed opportunities, leadership distraction, and reduced confidence across the organization. Those things may not always show up as one clean line item, but they still have financial meaning. That is why financial impact analysis matters so much. It helps the organization ask, what are the direct costs? What are the indirect costs? And what are the operational consequences with financial implications? What continues costing us even after the outage ends? That is a much stronger business lens. And that is where many leaders need to shift their thinking. Because disruption is not expensive only when it is catastrophic. It can be expensive because it is poorly timed, because it affects a critical function, because it delays cash flow, because it interrupts customer delivery, because it creates hidden labor cost, because it produces downstream recovery work, and because it creates a decision burden at the wrong time. So financial impact analysis helps leaders move beyond emotion and into disciplined consequence thinking. That is the point. Now let's make this practical. Why should leaders care about financial impact analysis? First, because it helps prioritize what matters most. Not every function carries the same business consequence, and not every outage costs the same, and not every delay has equal weight. Financial impact helps leaders see where consequences become unacceptable fastest. That improves prioritization. Second, it helps justify preparedness investments. A lot of preparedness conversations struggle because the value feels intangible. But when leaders can see the cost of disruption clearly, investments in recovery capability, continuity planning, testing, redundancy, or staffing becomes easier to discuss in business terms. That is important. Because preparedness should not have to compete only as a theoretical good idea. It should be understood as a business protection decision. Third, financial impact analysis helps challenge weak assumptions. A team may believe a short outage is tolerable. A leadership may assume workarounds are sufficient, and technology may assume recovery timelines are acceptable. But when the business consequence is examined more carefully, those assumptions may prove too optimistic. That is valuable because it is much better to challenge assumptions before disruption than after it. Fourth, it helps strengthen executive decision making. Leadership decisions improve when they are grounded in consequence. If leaders understand what disruption really costs, they are better positioned to decide the following: what deserves investment, what deserves escalation, what can be tolerated, and what must be strengthened, and what recovery priorities need to look like. And fifth, it helps create cross-functional alignment. Finance, operations, IT, continuity, leadership, and customer-facing teams often see disruption very differently. Financial impact analysis helps bring the conversation into a shared business language. And that shared language matters because when consequence is understood differently across the organization, preparedness becomes inconsistent. But when leaders and teams share a clearer view of the consequences, planning gets better. This also connects strongly to business impact analysis. A BIA helps clarify what functions matter, how long disruption can be tolerated, and what the consequences are. Financial impact analysis strengthens that understanding by translating those consequences into business terms that leadership can use more directly. So the two work well together. A BIA helps identify impact. Financial impact analysis helps quantify and sharpen that impact. Now, that combination can be very powerful, and it corrects directly to endurance, because endurance in business is the ability to continue operating, make sound decisions, recover intelligently, and keep moving forward under pressure over time. Financial impact analysis supports endurance because it helps the business understand where disruption threatens value more clearly. If leadership does not understand the financial consequence of disruption, then recovery priorities may be misplaced, preparedness efforts may be underfunded, and the organization may be more fragile than it appears. But when financial impact becomes clearer, leadership can prepare more deliberately. That improves decision quality, it improves investment quality, and it improves recovery thinking. And that helps the business endure with more clarity and less guesswork. Now, I also want to say this. Financial impact analysis is not only for large enterprises. This matters just as much and more often for small and mid-sized businesses, because smaller organizations may have less margin for error, they have less redundancy, less staffing depth, less operational cushion, and less ability to absorb avoidable loss. That means even a moderate disruption can have meaningful consequences. And if those consequences are not understood, leadership may be operating with more hidden exposure than they realize. So one very practical leadership question is this: what would 1 hour, 1 day, or 1 week of disruption for our most important functions cost us? That is not a question every business can answer immediately, but the more clearly it can answer it, the more prepared they become. Because the purpose is not to become alarmed, the purpose is to become informed. Preparedness becomes stronger when business consequence is visible. That is why financial impact analysis matters. It gives leadership a clearer view of what is truly at stake. And once that becomes visible, better decisions are possible. So here's today's leadership takeaway. Financial impact analysis matters because it helps leaders translate disruption into real business consequence, and leadership decisions improve when consequence is understood clearly. That is the value. And here's today's question for you. If one of your most critical functions were disrupted tomorrow, could your leadership team explain the real financial consequences clearly enough to make strong decisions? That is a serious question, because when financial consequence is unclear, leadership often reacts too late, too weakly, and too vaguely. But when the impact is understood, preparedness becomes more disciplined. Thank you for joining me today on the Morning Endurance Call. If this kind of thinking is useful to you, join the free endurance community. That is where I'm sharing additional resources, tools, live learnings, and ongoing conversations for business owners, executives, and practitioners who want to build stronger businesses through preparedness, leadership, and endurance. The link will be in the description below. Tomorrow, we'll talk about dependencies and why they are one of the biggest hidden preparedness blind spots in business. Until then, think clearly, prepare deliberately, lead with endurance. Thank you for joining. Bye now.